welcome to the Do It All Dad Year podcast. Dad friendly entertainment for you and me. Controlling our kids through comedy can make our kids great again. And I'm your host, Michael Kornbluth, and this is episode 74, Motormouth Disease. Which explains why I am talking slower than usual. But before we get to motor mouth disease, I wanted to share with you New England goat versus the LA Mope. This is me yesterday before the Super Bowl. I want meat. And my wife says, but we're making cauliflower wings. And I say, then why don't I feel like you're my hunger pang guardian angel plucked down from heaven? Can I get a holla for some holla? I asked my daughter what she thinks of Adam Levine's voice on the song Godin on Slash's Dead album. She says, he sounds like he stole Michael Jackson's voice. This is my 7-year-old daughter. Giselle, I don't get the hype. She's 80 in model years. And my 5-year-old son says, and I'm better looking than Tom Brady. This is me at the diner with my 3 kids. Cashier says to me, you've got your hands full. And I say, if my wife agreed to an open marriage with Katy Perry, my hands would be full. Can I get a holla for some holla? My wife thinks our baby Samuel gets bored from too much time with her against his own free will. Always knew he was a quick learner. Does yuck face Mark Zuckerberg, aka Goodwill Hoodie, automatically root for the Rams yesterday, knowing he hates to concede genius bragging rights to the more decorated alpha hoodie of the pack, especially now? Old school football joke. How can you be a sports fan if you don't play fantasy football? How can you really be into girls when you spent Saturday night calculating the black to gray ratio on Brett Favre's ball sack? Can I get a holla for some holla? Unknown fact about President Trump. After Pat's owner, Bob Kraft's wife of 40 years, died, Trump called his friend once a week for a whole year to see how he was doing. My wife won't even bookmark my blog. Coaching LeBron James is a more thankless task than trimming his goat herder beard. Cedric the Entertainer wouldn't be able to contain himself. Are you the Black Moses now, GOAT? But Beasley's opinions on Luke Walton's coaching style matters. Did God pick you to liberate Unibrow from his guaranteed $150 million contract? Moses authored the Bible, and you can't string 5 words together coherently, King. Yeah, God isn't parting waters for you to get Anthony Davis self anointed great one. When the Lakers blow a halftime lead against Golden State, does Obama seek comfort in his secret stash of almond joys hidden behind Michelle's box of duct tape from Costco? Can I get a holla for some holla? This is me at the diner again. I'll have the Chevy Nova Lox omelet and a side of hollandaise sauce because your menu gives it your endorsement. I love to prove how my elitist people, New York Jews, don't know everything after all. Waitress laughs long time. Find out what celebrities are rooting for whom? Twitter? I think Chelsea Handler's Twitter feed speaks for the vocal majority in Rapewood. But she's a full-time social justice warrior now, to detract from her tits sagging popularity. New rule: you're banned from wearing a Rams jersey on Super Bowl Sunday if you never saw Chrissy ever try to slam Jim Rome into the ground like he was channeling tough guy Jack Youngblood. Dominic Sue is friends with Warren Buffett. President Trump is friends with Dana White. Who would you rather have a Diet Coke with? Sue bet on himself for a 1-year deal. Sue got $60 million guaranteed with Miami. Pink reportedly turned down an offer to perform at the Super Bowl because she didn't want to follow Lady Gaga. Rihanna reportedly turned down an offer to perform at the Super Bowl despite black people in America having 99 problems and Trump being none. This is me during the Super Bowl. Matilda, Whitney Houston could have been Gladys Knight if she didn't become a crackhead. Sounds like someone eclipsed the greatest voice of all tonight, channeling some pure, drug-free Whitney of old. Roger Goodell's photo op with the King family felt more forced than the utterance of social justice issues, or my daughter trying to make the Super Bowl interesting with new team logos. Rams, a flaming rainbow, leave me alone already for the only football game I've watched all year. Is Wade Phillips on the keto diet? He looks fantastic. Cauliflower wings are delicious. You don't know what you're missing, America. Brady looks annoyed at him having to will the Patriots to victory again with no margin for error as he headed back to the locker room for halftime yesterday. Dare I say, he was heading to halftime looking prematurely deflated. Adam Levine is the Jewish Justin Timberlake, minus the recognizable body moving hits. Pay homage to Georgia greats. Do an Otis Redding cover. Anything by the Allman Brothers. Any song by Georgia Satellites. But nothing off your records ever again, please. Can I get a holla for some holla? Not that Adam Levine will be invited to perform at the Super Bowl ever again. Of course, The only NFL game I watch all year is slower than Squid and the Whale. It bothers me knowing the GOAT never blows away a team in the Super Bowl. I know he never had Rice or Lynn Swan to race down touchdowns, but Terry Bradshaw didn't win 4 rings off short dump off plays either. But when it's all said and done, he's the GOAT for a reason. Congrats to Brady, the Hoodie, and Gronk for showing the world the true definition of clutch again and again. I love how Bob Kraft embraces Brady like his own son. The end. So that wasn't comedic exaggeration. It was the first Super Bowl that I've seen in 2 years, actually. Last year, my protest for all of the Colin Kaepernick protests was not watching the Super Bowl and having my kids watch the movie Miracle starring Kurt Russell, which I thought was appropriate. I wanted to test my daughter's attraction to Kurt Russell because we'll be hanging on the couch and I during the movie Overboard, and my daughter became smitten with Kurt Russell immediately. All of a sudden, she's feeling up my own set of hair, trying to locate luscious chosen curls that no longer exist. It was a hilarious moment, that's for sure. So I wanted to share with you Motormouth Disease. So here we go. It's hard not to get defensive when your son's pre-K teacher accuses him of being hard to understand, because laughter is the sound of comprehension. And I didn't score any laughs my first year of open mic stand-up. I want my son to develop male friendships deeper than the 18th hole. So I'm bound to get tiffed when his pre-K teacher implies his speech problems are preventing this from happening at 5. Wrestling team members spit in their cups at lunch together last time I checked. They're not gagging on dip. Yeah. So for my son's pre-K progress report, I was told he's difficult to understand. Did I mention he's 5? Aren't kids at this age barely competent mimes at this stage in life? You're not expecting Junior to bail you out in charades, is all I'm saying. I hate my son's pre-K teacher saying how my son's speech problem is preventing him from making more friends, because I know how much it sucks for 0 friends to show up in the hospital for your kid's afterbirth party, which feels like a precursor for your funeral. I shared that line with my daughter. She said, "Did you write that yourself? Because that's really funny." Good to know that even my daughter questions my occasionally A-plus comedic genius when it shows. Arthur's speech problems make it hard for him to develop positive relationships. Relax, teach. I already told him about Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Fake interest in others as long as possible. Can I get a holla for some holla? Arthur's speech problems make it hard for him to develop positive relationships with his peers. I'll tell him to tone down his genius. Like Henry Miller said, nothing is more depressing than a genius scrounging for work. Arthur's speech problems make it hard for him to develop positive relationships with his peers. But my friend from college, JT, called me a social genius, and he hated how successful my people, New York Jews, were in general. Can I get a holla for some holla? Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. But he isn't an out-of-work blogger for BuzzFeed. President Trump isn't showering praise in their direction. Arthur's speech problems make it hard for him to develop positive relationships with his peers. But Arthur doesn't resort to calling his classmates a little Hitler every time he calls BS on their moral grandstanding. Arthur's speech problems make it hard for him to develop positive relationships. But I'm raising a drug-free son. The burnouts in high school will have to resort to yearbook Grateful Dead quotes to articulate their innermost feelings the most. What a long strange trip it's been. We got it. Heard it 5,000 times already. Sound more like a broken record. Addicts of my life. Arthur's speech problems make it hard for him to develop positive relationships with his classmates. Is he sprinkling his conversation with too much Yiddish for the local townies to comprehend? North Pole's a schlep, Billy. Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. Turn the kids on to John Coltrane records during his super frenetic period so they can keep up with his motor mouth already. Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. Is Janie crying? Because Arthur called her a fake feminist for never offering to pick up after her Crayola station. Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers, but he can run and jump without falling, so nobody is calling him a knock-kneed putz, which is a step up in life over daddy at his age. Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. Is Billy's roundups of SpongeBob SquarePants so much more absorbing to hear? Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. But I thought wearing a Make America Great Again hat to school would prove he's a bad boy, soy boy. Was the pink polo shout out to Kanye West overkill? Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. Native New Yorkers talk fast because, like Dave Matthews, they've got so much to say. Bad example. Dave Matthews makes no sense to me either. Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. He's a better looking River Phoenix. Plus, he's funny. I don't see him having to hound playmates here, no offense. Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. Is he expected to be more fluent in Spanish for shared Taco Tuesdays already? Can I get a holla for some holla? Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. Arthur's speech problems make it, let me get this straight. He writes love Mia more legibly than I could. My penmanship looks like chicken scratch, Hebrew. You'd think I'd write deli reviews for the kosher planet. Can I get another holla for some holla? Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. That's because he's a peerless communicator, like Howard Stern, after his puppet show gangbang display phase. Ha! Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers because he's demanding commission money from selling more Girl Scout cookies than Mia. I sold the most. Why shouldn't I get a cut of the pie? Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers. Do you think a 5-year-old James Woods went out of his way to explain the importance of American exceptionalism over finger painting red, white, and blue? Arthur's speech makes it difficult for him to form positive relationships with peers? Sure, if he was a tech support worker from Mumbai trying to get a job at the Genius Bar at Grand Central in Manhattan. But Ocasio-Cortez makes sense. Arthur's speech problems make it hard for him to develop positive relationships. You'd think my son was impersonating Bill Maher. Why does a black CIA agent cross the road when he's already standing under a Popeye's chicken? I'm very sensitive to charges of talking too fast. Are you amazed I haven't run out of breath yet? This is the Do It All Dad Year podcast. Dad-friendly entertainment for you and me. Controlling our kids through comedy can make our kids great again. And congratulations again to Brady, Belichick, and all of his teammates for showing the world what clutch means and for performing under pressure. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart for making the city of LA 2 times losers in the past year. I'll talk to you guys soon.